Welcome to the NBAV podcast. Welcome back to NBAV, the NBA Avenue podcast, where we have a full November 13th night of games to react to. First of all, you have the Magic beating the Pacers, 94-90. And the Pacers I always compare the Pacers and the Kings, because the Pacers are the Eastern Conference team, the Kings are the Western Conference team. They're so inconsistent. They're so up and down. The Pacers go and they beat Dallas in an incredible locked-in victory a couple of games ago, and now they're losing games to the shorthanded Magic playing without Paolo Banchero, 94-90. They only scored 90 points in the game. And when the game started off, they were up. They were ahead at halftime. And Tyrese Halliburton scored nothing. He didn't have any points in the first half. But he had 8 assists. And it's okay when he does that and they have the lead, but at a certain point, when you're just not in that scoring mentality, it comes back to bite you. Because if you never get into the scoring mentality and you're the star player and you only end up putting single-digit points in the game, it's going to bite you coming down the stretch. Because what do they do at the end of the game? They don't feel comfortable going to Halliburton, who hasn't scored. They turned it over to Mathurin and essentially supplanted Tyrese Halliburton as the franchise guy for this game, and they said, no, Tyrese, you're not going to be the guy who's handling the ball here down the stretch, even though you're very capable of hitting clutch three-pointers, as we've seen throughout your brief career so far, but we're going to give it to Mathurin. He's the guy that's got confidence. He's the guy that's scoring lately, and ultimately it bit them. They didn't end up winning the game, but you're seeing how being the franchise guy and not scoring the basketball will come back to bite you more often than not. So Tyrese, he's not exactly... You see, where you've had a guy like Rondo or Jason Kidd who could put up massive assist numbers, they didn't always need a score. It seems like today, Tyrese also needs to score. It's not enough for him just to be assisting and not getting any points for himself like he did in the first half. He's got to be scoring as well. He's got to be putting up at least 10 points a half. He's got to be putting up 20 points per game for this Pacers team to win more ball games and for everyone to be locked in at all times. It's not enough for him to just feed everyone and be a facilitator. He needs to also score. And the Magic winning 4 ball games in a row now without Paolo Banchero. It started off, they lost like 5 in a row without him, and now they've won 4 in a row without him. They probably shouldn't have. It's only to the detriment of other teams that they've managed to win these games, especially the Pacers, blowing a game that they should definitely be able to win. And then you have the Celtics getting back on track with a victory over the Brooklyn Nets. You have the Bulls beating the Knicks in an absolute heartbreaker. The Knicks were down. They came back from, down 18, 20 points in the game. And then at the end of the game, they get the big clutch bucket from Brunson. They had several good baskets inside from OG and from other players and from Cat. And Cat had a thunderous slam near the end of that game. And all the way at the end, the Knicks have the 2-point lead with the clutch Brunson shot from the left elbow area. And then what happens? Kobe White goes up for a 3, and it's debatable, did Josh Hart foul him or not? I would have liked to see them not call that foul, because it wasn't like a lot of the three-pointers where when you're right in front of the offensive player, so the offensive player is facing you up and you're in front of him and you jump and you crowd his space, they call that one a lot more often, where you're not giving room to land. Here, Hart kind of swiped from behind, causing the shot to become a tougher shot, and it's unclear if he brushed Kobe White or not, but you can't say that he landed in his airspace. All you could say is, if he brushed him, then you're saying it's a foul for brushing him. If he didn't, then it shouldn't have been called. But what ends up happening is Kobe White, you got to give him credit, he goes to the free throw line and hits all 3 free throws, which many players would not have done, so great on him for doing that. And then the Knicks get the in and out, around and out buzzer beater from Jalen Brunson, and they lose the game. The Knicks this season are being comparable to the Mavericks. The Knicks record now stands at 5-6. They're in 4th seed, tied for 4th and 5th with the Pacers. If you go to the Western Conference, the Mavericks are 5-6 as well. Knicks and Mavericks are both 5-6, and they've both been in every game virtually. all their games are close, and they've had to both come up with new inventive ways to lose these games. And you can't get too upset at it because they're in these games, and both teams have things to figure out, a little bit of movement on each. The Knicks had more movement. Both teams have high expectations. The Knicks coming off decent playoffs last year that got ended abruptly because of injuries. Dallas went all the way to the finals, and they have high expectations for this season once again. They had a few pieces moving here or there. The Knicks had more pieces moving, and you're seeing both of these teams poised to do great things this season. But right now, they're not finishing off these ball games. They're losing in heartbreaking fashion, and they both are 5-6. The difference is the Knicks are in the East, so the Knicks are sitting at 4, and Dallas is in the West, and Dallas is sitting at 12. And that says really all you need to know about the East versus the West. For the Knicks, that's how it's going to go. The Knicks can lose a lot of these ball games. It won't matter. They'll still be a top 4 seed, more than likely, when this is all said and done. The Mavericks can do the same, and they're going to have to go on a real heater to get that 4 seed. The Knicks don't necessarily have to do that. They just have to figure out their team to win a lot of the games that they're expected to win, and they'll probably be in 4 or 5 seed. So it's a lot easier of a journey for the Knicks than it is for the Dallas Mavericks, but I wouldn't worry about either of those teams. Then you had the Cavaliers beating the Sixers, playing without Embiid, playing without Paul George, playing without Tyrese Maxey. So what you end up with is 34 minutes from Caleb Martin and Kelly Oubre, 38 minutes from Jared McCain, the rookie, 31 minutes from Yabusele, 27 from Reggie Jackson getting the playing time, and then you have Bona, Kenyon Martin Jr., Eric Gordon, Ricky Council, Jeff Doughton, Kyle Lowry filling out the rest of the minutes, missing all their good players. We expected the Cavaliers to win, and now the Sixers have 12 easy games in a row on their schedule. So the Sixers are going to play their guys. They're going to play Embiid and Paul George in most of those games, and they're going to try to go on a 10-2, 8-3. It's 12 games, so they're going to try to go on a 10-2 or 8-4 or 7. My math is just incredibly bad in this moment. But they're going to try to win either 10 out of the next 12 games, or 9 or 8, 10-2, 9-3, or 8-4, something like that, and that's going to get them back on track. This is what they've been waiting for. This is what they've been banking on, is running these victories together now that they have the easier schedule. This is what they were saving Embiid for. So they got Embiid to play in one game, and now they're going to come back with 12 games, and he's going to play in a lot of these, and they're hoping to get back on track. The Thunder beat the Pelicans, and what's left of that franchise. The Milwaukee Bucks took overtime, and it took 59 points from Giannis, but they did ultimately get the victory over Detroit, which is all that really matters, is that they got the victory, but we're not really going to focus on it too much. The Spurs beat the worst team in the NBA, the Washington Wizards, 139-130. The Rockets, we knew that they should be favored over the Clippers slightly because they were at home, and they have a slightly better team, and they showed it in the 111-103 victory there. The Lakers got the easy win. Well, it wasn't easy by score, but they got the win over a Grizzlies team playing without Morant, without Bane, going pretty much the way we thought. And then you come to the shocker. The Wolves losing back-to-back ball games to the Blazers. They lose the NBA Cup night, and then they lose the following night. Wow, incredible. How do the Blazers somehow manage to beat the Wolves in 2 straight games? So, in the first game, the Wolves scored 108 points. Last night, the Wolves only scored 98 points. So you're looking at, over the last 3 games, the Minnesota Timberwolves scored 94 against the Heat, and they lost 95-94. Then they scored 108, and then they scored 98. So they're averaging just 100 points a ball game over the last 3. And in today's NBA, you routinely see the scores get up much, much higher than that, right? If you look just at last night's games and you say how many teams won scoring 100 points, well, the Magic won. They only scored 94 points. Every other game, the winning team scored at least 106 points. So, if the Wolves are using last night as a sample size, out of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 games played last night. Only one team won scoring less than 106 points. So you're going to need to score at least 106 to have consistent victories per game. This is just but you're certainly going to have to score over 100. Scoring 100 or less like they did in their last 3 games is not going to get it done. And Minnesota, it's one thing when they played Miami and they held them to 95 points. You'd think, okay, maybe that's winnable. But you can't allow the Blazers to score 106 on you if you're not scoring 100 points yourself. You can't allow the Blazers to score 122 on you. That certainly you can't do. Whereas at least you could say when they played Miami, they played phenomenal defense on Tyler Hero. He only scored in the low 20s on 1 million shots. You could say, hey, they held Anthony Edwards. You could say, hey, they held Terry Rozier to single-digit, low-teen scoring. That's great. But then you turn it around and you get beat 2 nights in a row by players like Scoot Henderson and Rob Williams, who barely suits up. And you don't have that same defensive effort to the point where you can afford to barely score any points. You're getting beat by guys like Toumani Camara and Shaedon Sharpe, who's barely got any experience in the NBA. You're losing to guys like Denny Avdia, who's shown really nothing in his NBA career. These are embarrassing losses for Minnesota. These are real embarrassing losses. Only getting 24 points from Anthony Edwards now that Cat isn't on the team. You're seeing that Cat was a force on the offensive side of the basketball. And if Cat's gone and Julius Randle is scoring around 20 a game and Anthony Edwards is scoring around 20 a game and Naz Reid is scoring 10 to 15 a game, that's not going to get it done. They're going to need Dante DiVincenzo to start pouring in some three-pointers to get that up because in 22 minutes last night, he only scored 2 points. That's really bad for DiVincenzo. They've got to get his shot going. They've got to get him going because if he puts in 4 threes last night, they win the ball game. And that was what he was doing on the New York Knicks last season, is he was putting in many threes each game. You look back at DiVincenzo the previous night, he only scored 3 points. So in these 2 losses to the Portland Trailblazers, DiVincenzo scored 3 points and followed it up by scoring 2 points. Maybe you got to give him more minutes. He's used to playing a lot of minutes on the Knicks. Maybe you got to give him more minutes until the point where you get him going and empower him, because Edwards in the last 2 games scored 26 and 24 points. You need him to score over 30 if nobody else is getting it done. And DiVincenzo only scoring 3 and 2 points. This shows that you have a lot to work out in the offense. See, for the Knicks, who made the trade with Minnesota for the Cat trade, sending back Randle and DiVincenzo, they have it figured out on the offensive end with Cat. They just got to figure out the defensive end. But it seems like Minnesota has somewhat figured it out on the defensive end a little bit, and they really need to figure it out on the offensive end. And then the final ball game of the night was the Phoenix Suns losing to the Kings, 127-104. They played a couple of nights ago. It went to overtime. And without Durant in this one as well, the Kings take it. The Kings are an up-and-down team. You can never predict what they're going to do on a nightly basis. Sometimes they're fantastic, and sometimes they're like the Pacers. They're horribly inconsistent, and sometimes they put up duds in games that you expect them to win, like they did against the Spurs a couple of in their last one. So the Kings bounce back as we sort of expected. We thought it would be close. We gave them the slight edge. And they won by more than a slight edge. Turns out, Kevin Durant, are you important to the Phoenix Suns? Wow, turns out you're very important. Turns out they need you more than you can imagine because they've played, 3 games without you? And they've lost 2 out of the 3. So there you go. In the last 3 games, the Suns 1 and 2. And they've only got 3 losses on the season. So they lost 1 game out of the first 9 where Durant played. And now they've lost 2 out of the last 3 where he hasn't played. Pretty simple to look at. I know it's a small sample size, but yes, Durant makes a big difference in closing games, and he makes a big difference in general. Tonight, you only have 1 basketball game. You've got the Dallas Mavericks against the Utah Jazz. If you want to go bet something, I would say take the Mavericks for the win and load up on a Luka, Kyrie, Or if you think Clay's going to stay hot, pick Clay to go over on his threes. Pick him to hit a couple of threes if you want to be conservative and not get as good odds. But that's certainly the betting area for me. It would be Doncic, something with points, assists, Mavericks win, Clay for a couple of threes, Kyrie for a couple of threes, and take it from there and see what you can do. See how you can get the odds, get a boost, and go make some money. As always, we're your source for a great time every time. And until next time, we are out.